Okay, sorry guys. I did say I would record for some people that couldn't get on today. All right, so, and backing up for a second, just looking at, we're introducing a topic called the microbiome and how complex it is. It's definitely our second brain, maybe it's the first brain that's in charge of our whole body. And then this is my family. We'll do this again next month. So if anyone wants to tune in live and ask questions, we can do that. So getting into the microbiome. So what affects our microbiome? So whether or not you were born C-section or vaginally really can affect your microbiome. What you eat, how cleanly you are. Actually, believe it or not, overwashing and our sanitizing has really affected our microbiome. They're seeing more and more in the research that they've been doing. And I did mention before that really this is kind of a new field of study. They haven't really discovered how complex this was until 2012. So it's really changing the face of how medicine is practiced and what we're looking at in terms of our understanding of vitamins, how our brain and gut are totally connected, things like that. And then medical practices, so prescriptions, so many people are using antibiotics, and that actually really wipes out your microbiome and causes a lot of issues. So do steroids, the contraceptive pill, all of those have drastic effects on your microbiome, or actually more technically correct, microbiota is what they're all called together. So, and then also lifestyle stress has a big factor in your microbiome, and genetics and DNA play a role, but I will go into that a little bit more in a bit. So what's interesting, what they're seeing with the microbiome is if it's off, then you have a propensity to being overweight. And this process is called dysbiosis. And so this is funny. This just made me giggle. Check this man for dysbiosis stat. Because, with our fast-paced society, we're eating in a totally different way than we normally used to. Stress levels are, skyrocketing through the roof. We've got, hand sanitizers at everywhere. And then the medication practices. And actually this actually should have breastfeeding on here too. So if you're breastfed or bottle fed, that plays a huge role in shaping your microbiome. So when we talk about dysbiosis, that's really having more bad bacteria than beneficial bacteria. And so that bad bacteria will really send messages to your brain, you need to feed me. And what bad bacteria like is sugar. And processed foods and things like that. That's what it's feeding off of. And so it craves what it's feeding off of. So I like to really kind of point this out to people that are struggling with their weight, because if they can start changing their microbiome, and there's some ways to do that very naturally and easily, they will stop craving the things that are sabotaging their weight goals. Okay. So some of the signs that I wanted to kind of point out for you guys, hopefully you can see with this bar over here. Signs of dysbiosis or trouble with your microbiome might be chronic fatigue, food allergies. You can read these lists here. So this is kind of the start. And then brain-related symptoms to this could be mood issues, brain fog, anxiety, depression. More severe, now we're going to get into some more severe issues with microbiota being completely off. And that would be IBS, Crohn's, a lot of the different immune issues, autoimmune disorders, and then into, very, very difficult disorders that microbiota just gets worse and worse and worse and progresses. So, but again, I don't want to paint a scary picture. There is good news at the end here. So I really like to, usually my talks are more interactive. And so I get goofy and I make everyone talk about poop to break the ice. And, that's just what I do as a healthcare practitioner. We just need to get more comfortable kind of talking about these topics. So another part of my interactive is I usually have people guess. So I'm going to take a second and you can guess kind of silently how many packets of sugar are in this very small orange soda, the kind that you would get out of like a vending machine. And most people guess, some people say 70, and then some people are like, 10. Well, the truth is it's 22 packets of sugar. And I always like to ask people, can they imagine stirring in 22 packets of sugar into a pint-sized glass of iced tea? It's so much sugar, and yet kids are drinking this, or we are drinking this, and so it's one of those things where we don't really see the effects of sugar. And I go into this on my brain health talk a little bit more. But really, back in the 1950s, the average consumption of sugar was about 4 to 5 pounds a year. And right today, it's 150 to 200 pounds of sugar per person per year, because it's in everything. And it has a drastic impact on our microbiota. Another thing I usually ask is when, getting people to guess when the first packaged foods were introduced to the market. And this is 80s packaging, so don't be fooled by that. But most people guess, 70s, 60s. Well, actually, the first packaged foods were introduced in 1950. So really, my mom was born in 48. So she was the first generation to have it available her whole life. But really, it didn't get popular in her family until she was older. So I would say I am the first true generation of packaged foods. And they've actually done studies on, and I don't like cite animal studies for a lot of things, but this one was very particularly interesting to me. They did a study on cats, and after 3 generations of eating packaged foods, they could no longer reproduce. And we're really on maybe 1.5 generations. And we were looking at, you can see our infertility rates skyrocketing, disease rates skyrocketing, and so it's definitely one of those things where I want to point that out for people, because 90% of the food eaten in America is processed, you guys. And so today we actually are living in an era where our children are more harmed by poor diet than exposure to drug, alcohol, and tobacco combined. Dr. David Katz of Yale actually says this is the first generation of children to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents. And I am a mom on a mission to change that statistic, because that's just not acceptable. And the good news is that 75% of diseases are preventable through good nutrition. And this is a lot to do, again, with our microbiota, but also with what our body needs for our cells to function properly. And just for a very complex humans, we need a lot of things done properly. But if we're putting in garbage, we're getting out garbage. So what I like to point out for people is that whole foods are very, very different than when sometimes we're maybe not eating as much as best as we should. And so we'll take a vitamin to make up the difference. But a vitamin versus whole foods is very, very different. So just for instance, an apple has 10,000 ingredients. And this is 400 of the known ingredients in an apple. It'd actually take about 26 pages to list everything in the apple. And just like this. And so it's all of these amazing, there's vitamins, minerals, sure. But there's also cofactors, enzymes, other phytonutrients that we haven't even discovered yet. I remember when resveratrol was discovered about 10 years ago, everything was like resveratrol pills, and it's going to be the anti-aging secret. And then after a few years on the market, it started disappearing, because resveratrol taken out of the grape wasn't acting the same in the body as it was in the grape. So that's why everything works in synergy. Your body needs all of those different phytonutrients to process. And one of the examples I like to share is that an apple has 8 milligrams of vitamin C. So it's not very much, right? But it would actually take 1,500 milligram tablet of vitamin C to reach the body the way an apple does, to have that same bioavailability. So our body processes the 8 milligrams of vitamin C out of a 1,500 milligram tablet, but it has to detox off the 1,400 and change that's left. So that's really the difference between whole foods and vitamins. So here's the good news. I love this. Getting to the good news. So our microbiome actually it changes, and I like to actually have people guess here too, but you can actually, the average lifespan of the bacterium in your microbiota has a life expectancy of 20 minutes. So really, truly, in 20 minutes, you can start changing the health picture of your gut, and drastically. So that's really exciting. And then this is, again, about the genetics that I was talking about before. So a lot of people think, well, my genes my genetic history has a lot of cancer and diabetes, and everyone I know in my family is overweight, so that's my destiny. Well, this is really exciting. There's also a new field of study since we've finally mapped the whole human genome. There's a field of study called epigenetics, and we can literally, they've found, turn on and off our bad genes. So we can literally, by lifestyle and diet, turn off bad genes and then not pass those bad genes on to our kids. So we can totally change the genetic picture of our children's and our grandchildren. So that's super exciting that genes are not our destiny. So it really is all about what you do. So I love to say happy bugs make happy bodies. And my kids will say, is this feeding the good bugs? Because I'll talk about it. I'll say, that feeds the bad bugs in our body. Let's go see if we can find something that feeds the good bugs. So for instance, we've got the cookie or the fruit choice, right? Well, the cookie might feed the bad bugs, but the fruit feeds the good bugs. And so I love that and again, if you guys are kind of info nerds like me, I'm a total nerd. I have a lot of great articles I can share with you, but really, truly, the long and the short of it is there's 100 trillion critters in our gut, and that would actually weigh about 5 to 6 pounds. We can't even see them, right? But if we took them all out and put them on a scale, it would be 5 to 6 pounds of these guys. And so they are drastically in charge of so many things in our body, including our food choices. So if we can start, overriding that second brain saying, I need that sugar, and give it, healthy sugar from fruit or vegetables, and it will satisfy that initial craving and then start to kind of change that tide. Another thing I like to address here too is that when we start making healthy choices, we have what we call die-off, and it's actually a process where you kind of have to, again, just that first brain up here needs to override that second brain down here until it's okay. Because you'll start, having major sugar cravings as those bad bugs are dying off, and gas and bloating and things that are uncomfortable. And a lot of people then shy away from vegetables or things that, they feel like make them go to the bathroom more or get gassy. Again, we're all about poop here. You want to have that cleansing and that die off, because it's really just bad stuff leaving your body. So if you can get through that phase, then you're just going to be so much healthier on the other side of it. So, okay, and then I always say too, this is the only picture I could find on the internet that said feed your microbiome with it. So how many servings a day would I ask most people, how many servings a day do you think you need to stay healthy? And usually the average guess is about 5. And actually the current recommendation that it's anywhere between 7 to 9 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And that's because it does so many things for your cells, but that's what your microbiome feeds off of, fruits and vegetable matter. And the other thing, that if you are an athlete and you work out an hour in any 24-hour period, you need 16 to 18 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. So that's a huge difference between, what the average person is. The average person is eating about 1 cup of fruit and a cup and a half of vegetables daily. So that's a drastic difference between what we are eating as a society and what we should be eating. Okay, and I love to keep things simple. I'm a Dr. Sears certified health coach, and he is actually a pediatrician. He's one of the most well-known pediatricians. And I love how he teaches, because he teaches for kids, and it's just so understandable for adults even as well. So I like to keep it simple, silly, and do the 6S diet. And it's the things that really create a healthy, happy microbiome, things like seafood, smoothies, salads, spices, smart snacks, and smart supplements, I like to say too. All of these things really help with amazing gut health. And if you can do things in your salad like kale and arugula, dark leafy greens, I tend to put, also dark leafy greens in my smoothies as well, and multiple dark fruits. And then I even hide turmeric in our smoothie with a little bit of, we do a little avocado oil. Turmeric needs to have an oil with it to be more bioavailable. And sometimes people we're on the fence a little bit about whether or not black pepper is super helpful for turmeric as well. But, and then smart snacking, I want to talk about that for a second. A lot of times we overload we're busy, so we do a huge meal at the end of the day, and then we just have totally overloaded our microbiota and the job that they can do for us. And actually I learned last night in a really more in-depth talk that our microbiota kind of starts to shut down after 6 o'clock. So if we can try to do more of our larger meals earlier in the day before 6, we'll definitely be doing our gut a lot of good. So smart snacking is kind of grazing, or the rule of 2s is to chew twice as much and eat twice as often. And then Dr. Sears says, make it fun for kids, like use chopsticks, get creative at the dinner table, so we're not just shoveling our food in and causing more work for those beneficial bacteria that have a big job to do. And then a lot of people ask me in terms of the microbiome and helping, and one of the things I like to teach is that it's not about being perfect. It's about having about maybe 20% of the bad bacteria to 80% of the good bacteria. In dysbiosis, it's more of the opposite. So we want to just feed our gut with all of the great, to making sure that we have good food for our microbiota. And then also people ask me, well, what about probiotics? Once you've taken antibiotics, can we do probiotics? Well, and probiotics are great. There are some troubles with the probiotics because there's, I can't remember the statistics. I think it's over 100 and some strains of beneficial bacteria, and the highest strain variety that you can typically get is about 30. So you're still missing a lot of those beneficial bacteria by that you need to get through food. But probiotics can be definitely a life-saving thing when you are on rounds and rounds of antibiotics. I definitely suggest probiotics. But also prebiotics, you need things that your probiotics eat. And actually those probiotics, that microbiota, needs fructooligosaccharides, and FOS for short. And those are things that come from things like Jerusalem artichoke. It's a non-digestible fiber to us, but it's a fiber that they eat and flourish with. So if you want to look that up, you can. There's really great food sources of FOS. And then one of the things I like to point out here too is that, typically with kids, if they have a amount of dysbiosis, healthy food does not taste good to them. They'll actually get a coating of yeast, of bad bacteria and fungi on their tongue. And when good food goes in there, and especially things like sauerkraut that would kill that bad bacteria, it tastes awful because it starts to off-gas right away. And kids just are totally, you incite the gag reflex. So what I do to get around that is to actually hide some of those good beneficial things in things that they're happy to drink. So I usually hide a lot of things in smoothies. I actually put sauerkraut juice in our smoothie. That way we're getting that beneficial stuff in, and I'll talk about that a little bit. Oh, actually, I can talk about that here. So sauerkraut is one of my favorite ways to get a lot of probiotics in our gut because it has the live enzymes and things that actually will help. And it's actually, there's about, I think the statistic, and you can Google this to check me, but it's a teaspoon of the juice has more probiotics than an entire bottle of probiotics. So it's a very inexpensive way to get very effective probiotics. And then also because of those enzymes, you don't build up that mucus resistance that if you take probiotics for a long time, your body starts building up a mucus resistance to them. So that's a great tool there as well. So we have a lot of sneaky, I call them my sneaky mom tricks. If you want, your child is struggling to eat things that are good for the microbiome, I have a lot of sneaky mom tricks that I can help. And so there's also, a lot of different factors into restoring your microbiome. Definitely, outside time is important. Eating enough plants, getting enough rest, things like that. Okay. And then this is a picture of me. Actually, I think I have an even worse picture next of me in my 20s when my microbiome was very, very off. I had chronic fatigue. I had been on back-to-back antibiotics when I was a child for bronchitis issues. I was not happy. And as I started shifting this, the difference for me was amazing. I used to suffer from cystic acne, chronic migraines. My first pregnancy was miserable. I was super puffy. I couldn't lose the baby weight afterwards. And my next two pregnancies were just completely different. And actually my babies are completely different in terms of they never had the colic, food allergies, eczema issues that my son did. Okay. Oh yes, here's my embarrassing before. This is a very off microbiota. I was actually raised pretty healthy other than the fact that I had the bronchitis issues. But my mom, it's interesting, you actually pass on your microbiota to your children. My mom was bottle fed, and she later in life developed allergies. And then for me, my issues were food allergies. I had a lot of issues with gluten and dairy, and that was undiagnosed for a long time. And so I had chronic bronchitis. But then but other than that, we pretty much ate healthy. But then when I went to college, I ate all of the things that I saw my friends eating. I went to McDonald's, I did things, and it was a nightmare for my system. And so I really am super glad that I found out this information, because today it's totally different. I feel way better I'll be 40 in a couple months, way better at 40 than I did in my early 20s. So very exciting that we are in charge of our destiny here. And so I really want to take this second to share with you a simple way. So a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get 9 to 13 or 16 to 18 servings of fruits and vegetables in my diet to keep myself healthy and my happy bugs healthy? And I want to share with you this amazing product line that we call Juice Plus, and then the Tower Garden. So I'll start with the Tower Garden. I love the Tower Garden. I am a recovering black thumb. I have the only kind of plants I can keep alive is still not looking great, are pothos and succulents. And with the tower, these are actually my towers. I grew this stuff because it's amazing what can happen when it waters itself. I call it my robotic garden. Here's my son. He's definitely, his health picture is amazing. He's actually he was diagnosed on the spectrum of sensory processing, but really you can't tell that anymore. And I'm almost wondering if we can kind of take him off that list now, which would be fantastic. He does homeschool, and so we have used the Tower Garden for some awesome homeschooling projects. That's him photobombing his purple cauliflower. And they're amazing. You can grow indoors. This is in our living room here in Vegas. This is in my mom's laundry room. I love the Tower Garden if you are a purist and you just want to grow your own produce. And I love that it's been studied to be, actually it uses 90% less water and 90% less space than traditional gardening. It also has the same or better nutrient values than, the same plants grown in the best of organic soil. They did a study at Ole Miss, which is one of the there's my dead plants there in the background. It's University of Mississippi, which is a very horticulturally centered university. And it's just, you can see this base here, it's just water and ionic earth minerals that are cycled through a pump. So it's actually aeroponic, not hydroponic. And so we can use a one-size-fits-all tonic. Hydroponics is a very complicated system. So certain plants need certain tonics and things like that. With aeroponics, they're getting that CO2 actually to the roots. And so they see 30% more growth and 30% faster growth. So it's really exciting. And then with our Juice Plus product line, sorry, I can't talk today. We have the ability to get over 45 plants in our body every single day. And that's huge for the microbiome. And I love Juice Plus because it is just 45 whole foods. And I keep moving this little bar around. Sorry, guys. It's just a food label. And really it's like the same thing as you would get on a bag of spinach, because it is just whole food. So it's just juiced and dried fruits and vegetables. It has all of those tens of thousands of phytonutrients, and every plant has a different set. So you really need that wide variety to get everything that your body needs. I love that everything is non-GMO, dairy-free and gluten-free. And it's also NSF certified. So that's a third party that comes in and randomly pulls batches of Juice Plus. Juice Plus is stringently tested by the company itself. I think it's 6 different times to be sure that there's no contaminants. And then NSF tests as well to be sure that they test for herbicides, pesticides, heavy metals, molds, bacteria, pharmaceuticals. I mean, the list goes on. This is a super pure product, which gives me a huge peace of mind. And then on top of that, there's over 35 published clinical trials, and these are all done on humans. It's not, animal research, and it's also, the majority of them are double-blind, placebo-controlled, and randomized. So it's the gold standard of research, and a huge amount of benefits. So this is exciting because really, guys, this is just the power of plants. So it improves cardiovascular wellness, supports the immune system, improves gum tissue, and reduces oxidative stress. Also reduces systemic inflammation, protects DNA. They've shown it to increase skin health. They've looked at it in childhood obesity, quality of life of cancer survivors, and actually looked at it in smokers as well. So, and I could go on and on about this, but I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time today. If you're curious about the research, it's all on our websites. And you can see everything on PubMed. The research score is incredible. And it's just super exciting. That's all very accessible for any info nerds like me that want to read through the studies. And I love this too, that my daughter, when we started actually giving her the complete shakes for breakfast before she would go to school, it was a huge difference. And I volunteer in her class. And usually I would come in and I would see that her, she's getting tired and, starting to get hungry. And when we started doing the complete shake in the morning for breakfast instead of cereal or oatmeal, it was an incredible shift in her ability to make it to lunch, but also in her focus ability. And here, this is her putting greens in her smoothie, and she's walking out the door with plants, kale and broccoli and all kinds of good things for her microbiota first thing in the morning. And so really want to invite you guys to kind of learn more with us. If you are feeling like, oh my gosh, I just really need to reset my microbiome and get myself, more healthy. We have an incredible program called the Shred 10, and it's just a 10-day program. So it's really doable for busy people. And one of the things I like to point out about the Shred 10 program is that we really are just shedding impurities out of our body, really resetting the gut. And there's amazing things that happen when that happens. So with regular dieting, typically we're starving ourselves of calories or working out a lot. And so we might be burning fat, but really the body holds on to excess fat to protect its vital organs from toxins. So if we're just burning fat without getting rid of those toxins, when we stop doing that, we have that rebound effect or that yo-yo dieting issue. And actually rebound is typically more. You actually gain, your body was like, that was close. I got to grab onto some excess fat. So what we've seen with the Shred 10 program is that we're really just naturally detoxing and getting rid of those impurities. And so there is no rebound when that's over. The weight stays off and the body is back in balance. So anyone who invited you can really share more with you about our Shred 10 programs. And this is a couple of my friends, actually, Joel. This is him in his 30s. He had just graduated from getting his doctorate in education. And you can see, every time now I see these puffy faces, I'm like, oh, microbiome issue. He was doing things like Snickers and diet soda. And this is him after, several Transform. We also have a 30-day program. So he did the Transform 30s probably once a quarter, I think is what he said. And over time, it really shifted his microbiome. And look at him today at 45, just a huge difference. And then this is my friend Erica. Move this again. Hopefully you guys can't see that too much. This is her after, again, several T30s, and just the difference. She is, I met her when she was this way, and now today to see the difference is just amazing to me. Her energy level is through the roof. She just had her second baby and she looks amazing, and the baby's super healthy. So it's just very exciting when you get to kind of take control of your health picture. And then one of the things I wanted to say, I should have said on the research slide, is that Juice Plus is doing a study on how Juice Plus affects the microbiome, because we've seen over and over again, evidence that it shifts the microbiome. And actually, I wanted to point out too that the Juice Plus complete shakes have FOS, the fructooligosaccharides. So this is a powerful combination when you do the shakes and the capsules. The capsules are 30 different fruits, vegetables, and berries, and it has probiotics in it. And then this has prebiotics, what feeds the beneficial bacteria, and has additional 15 plants. So it's a really amazing combination. Okay, and then anybody that orders the red and green capsules actually can sponsor a child to get Juice Plus for free, and they can either get capsules or they can get chewable gummies. They're just amazing company that has a huge heart for kids. So this program is actually part of the Children's Health Study. And so any kid between the ages of 4 and 18, and even full-time undergraduate students, I think the cap age is 25, can get Juice Plus for free for 4 years, which is incredible. And they've seen, this is actually one of the largest longitudinal studies of its kind. I think at this point it has had over 1 million participants, which is really exciting. This is kind of an older slide. And some of the results that we're seeing within that is that they're eating less fast food and they're drinking more water. They're eating more fruits and vegetables, and fewer school days missed, taking fewer medications, things like that. Constantly we see people that get on Juice Plus get rid of one medication at a time. We don't ever say like, start with Juice Plus and get rid of your medications. It's a natural process as the body comes in balance. People aren't needing their allergy medications anymore. You just gotta a dear friend of mine that said, I'm off my heart medication. And it's just such an amazing feeling when you are helping people impact their lives so drastically. And then we really are just a healthy living community. Again, this company has a huge heart. And I joined with this company because I'm really all about helping people. Again, I'm a mom on a mission. If this was made such a huge difference for me, I just want to get this information out there. So I love that so many of you are on this call today and that are learning this information and can kind of help spread this information, because it's just so exciting when we know better, we can do better, and then we can really help our children do better as well. And so we really are about a movement. So if you go away from this talk and you just go eat more plant material and more fruits and vegetables, then I'm happy we've done our job. And that's what we're all about. So we have this private Facebook community that has amazing things. We have cookbooks on here. We have a children's program. You can be a healthy living ambassador. We have live events like this. We have live events in person as well. And then we have continuing education by, major healthcare practitioners from around the world it's very exciting. So get with the person that invited you to be added to our Facebook group if you're not already part of that, because it's a fabulous community. And we really like to do kind of one simple change at a time. It can be overwhelming. We don't want anyone, feeling overwhelmed and then not even taking a simple step. It's really about taking one step, whether or not that's just drinking more water today, just so you know. You want to be drinking about half your body weight in ounces every day. So at 140 pounds, I need to be drinking 70 ounces of water a day. Just another little tidbit. So one simple change at a time. And then we really just invite you to join us, whether or not we do food prep parties. Some of the ladies on this call today do amazing salad in a jar parties. I think Isa just did an oatmeal in a jar party that looked amazing. And so it's really just about helping each other make these simple changes. And I just want to thank you guys for your time. I'm going to stop my screen share and take questions for anyone that has questions, and stop the recording.